Hey, good evening. Well, one of the things that comes up quite a lot for discussion is the difference between the way that a foreigner thinks, an expat thinks, and the way that a Filipino thinks. and, uh, and the two are greatly different, believe me. And it also brings up the problem of how can, let me say, the more intellectual is the foreigner, in that intellect is often in the West, it's about training. And the biggest difference that I've found between a Filipino or Filipina, in this case Filipino we're talking about, because that's the issue that's coming up all the time. So we'll keep it to a foreigner, a male foreigner and a Filipina lady. And so what's the difference between the thinking? For one thing, and I'm not making this as a criticism, only an observation, and that is that they're not taught analytical thinking. They don't think analytically. I've presented problems to many of our students. You've got to understand that I'm not just talking from the experience. It doesn't make me the all-knowing expert, but I have been familiar in our education support system with the way of thinking and the way of talking and being and behaving with certainly over 70 Filipinas. And they do fall into a certain way of thinking. And I can always trace it back to the amount of training and, in my opinion, programming that the most of the males that come over to the Philippines have gone through. So in other words, say for instance, when an expat goes on the road and drives in the Philippines, especially in the province, what they can't get used to is the fact that there doesn't seem to be any rules. Of course, there are rules, but they're just different from the ones that we're used to. For instance, when I go driving, I'm conscious of the etiquette of being on the road. When you pull out from a side street, you don't pull out in a way which will cause someone else to brake. So you should, according to most of our training, you should be actually integrating smoothly with the traffic that is already going on the road. So you see a gap and you can pull out and into it. That's what you would do. In the Philippines, certainly let's just talk in our area, in Bohol, the idea is not to stop when you reach a major road. You pull straight out onto the road. Now, it does work. Occasionally there are accidents, but I've only seen about 2 or 3, and that's in 10 years. So it works. And people they allow the person on the tricycle or the motorcycle to pull straight out, and they don't mind braking, and they allow the other person to pull out and in. Whereas certainly in the UK or in America, there would be some upset feelings, and people would be sounding the horn and, perhaps doing various finger exercises on their way past the offender. But they don't have that here. And they don't have, even though the driving seems chaotic, I don't see many accidents. And I certainly don't see any road rage. I don't see anybody irate because somebody's pulled out without looking, because it's okay. It's different rules. And the way that that's evolved is because people have taught themselves especially on the motorcycle. There are thousands and thousands of motorcycles in the Bohol, in the Taliban area, and it's even worse when you get to other places. But you don't see any road rage, no matter how bad in your estimation as a foreigner the driving is. Another subscriber, a friend, said that he had noticed this I think he's been here for now a year, and he noticed it as well. The same applies when you're talking in terms of your lady, wife, girlfriend, companion, or just somebody, friend that you know. They think differently. For one thing, they're not generally aware of past, present, and future. It just doesn't seem to be part of the vocabulary. Also, and this always provides any foreigner that is getting together and talking with another foreigner, they'll talk about yes and no. They don't do those things like we do. So Beth and I often get this thing where people think that we are a perfect fit. Nothing could be further from the truth. We are not a perfect fit. We have evolved. Our life has unfolded in a way which has allowed us to live together. And some of the reasons for that are strange, because I enjoy my alone time. I enjoy being alone. I don't feel lonely when I'm alone. Because I'm a senior, and because seniors are given preference when they go places, for instance, if I go to the bank, no matter how long the line is, I go to the front of the line. In fact, they have a special cashier who will handle any retiree, any elderly person will go to the front of that line. Now, this is embarrassing when you first come here. In fact, when I first came here, I was so embarrassed about this, going to the front of a line when I was at the bank, thinking that all these people were in front of me, that I was told what the law, what the rule was, and then I had to find a way which I felt okay about. So I found one of the manager employees, and I said, "Can you help me?" And I explained my embarrassment. She was very, very helpful. She said, "It's okay, sir. All you have to do is come to me and give me the deposit slip or whatever your transaction is, and I will handle that for you." Now that worked very, very well until they opened a special desk, and then I felt okay because I'm clearly a senior, and I'm going to the desk that is marked seniors, and I think it's pregnant women, and so persons of other disabilities, something like that. So that's a rule that you get used to, and because of that, I can go to the bank and be in and out in perhaps 10 minutes, whereas if Beth went, she probably would be there for anything, depending on the line and what day it is. She might be there for 2 hours, so it makes sense for me to do that. And that involves me in going to town by myself. I go in my truck, which I enjoy driving very, very much. I've never got tired of it. It has a great sound system. It's very quiet. It's automatic. It's fast and smooth and a good ride. And it's very pleasant time for me to be in that. And I have my own music, which actually Beth doesn't care for my music. I prefer to have music which is more on the classical side. That's because I'm a former musician. I'm a retired musician, and I was in a band, mainly bands during my time, apart from 8 years in the army and in my basic training type of situation, where we played mostly classical music and marches and stuff like that. So that was my my training there, and now I enjoy a certain kind of music which borders on classical music. And Beth doesn't enjoy that stuff, and she'll turn it off when she gets in the truck. So I enjoy my time there. So that's why I end up going to breakfast. I go to breakfast alone. It's very good Wi-Fi at the restaurant that I go to. A simple restaurant. It's not expensive. I can eat very well there. I meet my friend Michael, and we meet there twice a week for what we call sanity resets, where we reset our sanity from the insanity of being in a situation where we're the only one that doesn't speak the language. So that's something that we enjoy doing, and we meet for a couple of hours twice a week in PP Coffee, which is a very nice, I think, grassroots restaurant, and we've been going there for so long that we're treated like family, and it's very, very pleasant. So it has good Wi-Fi, so I am able to do those things without being disturbed. And so our lives are shaped in a way which we have learned where not to be with each other, as well as we are able to be with each other. And this is part of why it works. When we go to Tagbilaran, which is, if we don't kill ourselves trying to drive too fast, we can do it in less than 2 hours, but comfortably and not going crazy. We're able to comfortably do it in 2 to 2.5 hours. And we enjoy the time together there, where we talk, and Beth catches up on her sleep. I do have that kind of a voice which puts Beth to sleep, which means some of our conversations are quite limited time-wise. But anyway, she jokes about that at night when we turn in, she'll say, honey, can you talk to me? So I say, what about? She says, it doesn't matter. I just want to hear your voice so I can go to sleep. So we work together in a way which will allow us to grant each other what can we call it? The privacy to be alone in each other's individual thoughts and not have to talk. So this works as well, apparently, for Beth as it does for me, and it's part of the chemistry that people perceive is so perfect with Beth and I. We don't say it's perfect because we know the work that we have to put in order for it to work. And I think most people have to do that. Now, the way that Beth thinks is something that I have to deal with more than the way that she has to deal with the way that I think. Because the way I think is not something that she's going to be able to adjust to. But for some reason, I am able to adjust to the way that she thinks, even though it has me scratching my head sometimes. But I've learned to let it go. And I know that there are some things which I simply cannot understand. So the way that she will think about something is just not something I can understand. And I accept that. And that also is part of an ingredient of the success of our marriage, which is now at 11 years. It was very exciting for me when I first came here because I got to do some incredible things which I'd never been able to do before. And it was a totally different kind of life. When I first came, a Filipina who was the wife of was one of the co-owners of the hardware store, the builder's merchant that we went to for all of our materials. And when she knew my age, she said, "When are you going back to America?" And I said, "I'm not going back to America." So she said, "Oh, so you've come here to die?" And I said, "No, I've come here to live." And this touches, very quickly before I end off, touches on a comment that was put in the last couple of days by a lady subscriber. Well, I think she's a subscriber. She said that all foreigners, this is a big generality, all foreigners come to the Philippines looking for someone to be caregiver to them. In other words, she was thinking the same as that Filipina I just mentioned. She thought that foreigners are coming to the Philippines to die, whereas it's quite the opposite. I think that foreigners are coming here to the Philippines to live, and to live a different kind of life, where they can actually have, for some people, it's a second or a third chance, and they can come and they can be, which answers another question. Someone said, why do older foreigners come and have younger women? And to me, the obvious answer to that is because they can. And there's something there which makes part of a deal for the younger Filipina and the older foreigner, and able to work something out to both of their benefits. And I think from the Filipinas that I've spoken to about this, they generally find that while the foreigners are impatient in some ways, like on time and waiting, they're not very patient on that, because it's not part of the makeup of a foreigner who is rigidly held to time. They have to clock in when they go to work. In my case, if I went to a gig as a musician, I had to be there 15 minutes before the start with my instrument cleaned, ready to go, and dressed in the appropriate dress, evening dress, whatever, ready to go. 15 minutes before we start. Here, it is more acceptable to be as much as 2 hours late. So that's something that you really have to get used to. So I made the point to this lady that no, I think it's because they are looking for another chance at living another life. I'm going to be 86 in July, so it's coming soon. Like an express train, I can assure you. And I'll be 86. And I still drive my truck. I have a nice truck. I love driving it. I have a sports motorcycle, and I enjoy riding that. And so things which Filipinos would have given up doing completely, because they seem to age quicker. So that's another video that could be done about how to age gracefully and with all your faculties, especially with the great emphasis on, I know I'm waffling around now, but especially with a great emphasis on the Alzheimer's disease. Okay, but in accepting certain things that I have to do, want to do alone, and leaving Beth to do things that she wants to do alone within the vows of our marriage. Okay, so we're not out there doing what the foreigners call an open marriage. No, that's not the thing at all. We have a respectful, loyal, faithful marriage, and it's worked very well for 11 years. So just thought I would give a few indicators of what I think is a success ingredient in our marriage. And I'll end off and I'll thank you, and I'll hope that you might share this, or at least like and subscribe, and to comment. I love to hear your comments. Let's hear from you how your marriage works, especially if you're married to a Filipina and you have worked out a way which can work well for you. So I wish you good night.